She planted herself at the edge of my cornfield, heels sinking into the dirt, waving a thick stack of papers like she owned the soil beneath her feet. "This runway is now HOA property," she snapped, her voice slicing through the warm afternoon air. "You have until the end of the week to move your animals and equipment. After that, we'll remove them ourselves." I stared at her, trying to process what I was hearing. Behind her stood a cluster of HOA board members, all smug expressions and pressed outfits, like they were posing for a corporate brochure instead of trespassing on my family farm. And behind them, what made my stomach tighten was a fresh strip of concrete cutting straight through my land. A brand new airplane runway. It hadn't been there 2 weeks ago. "You built this here?" I asked quietly, my voice controlled. Without talking to me, the woman in red, their so-called president, tilted her chin up. "We didn't need to talk to you. This land falls under our HOA expansion plan. If you don't like it, take it up with our lawyers." She smirked and glanced back at her board. They nodded like trained seals. I clenched my fists, then forced myself to smile. "Funny thing about lawyers," I said slowly, watching her eyes. "They don't mean much when you're outright breaking federal law." Her expression flickered for half a second. "Federal law?" she scoffed. "Don't be dramatic. This is a private community project. The FAA doesn't care what we do here." Stepped closer, close enough that she had to look up at me. "Oh, they care," I said quietly. "In fact, I am the FAA." The smugness drained from her face. The board members shifted uncomfortably, whispers breaking out behind her. "You don't understand what you've done," I continued, my voice steady, carrying across the silent field. "You didn't just trespass. You didn't just destroy crops. You built a runway without permits, without inspections on land under federal jurisdiction." She tried to recover, her voice rising. We had county approval. "This is completely legal." Shook my head slowly and pointed toward the freshly painted runway numbers. "When you build something like this," I said, "it takes my signature to make it legal. And guess what? I didn't sign a damn thing." Right then, a distant hum rolled across the sky. An aircraft. Perfect timing. The HOA board turned as a small federal plane descended toward the very runway they thought they controlled. Silence fell as fear crept in. I let it sit before delivering the line I knew would haunt them. "You wanted to play airport manager," I said coldly. "But you just built a crime scene." The plane touched down smoothly, tires screeching against the brand new asphalt. Wind whipped through the field as the propellers slowed. Karen, because of course her name was Karen, looked pale now, her confident posture cracking as 3 men in dark suits stepped off the aircraft. Federal aviation inspectors. They moved with quiet authority. One approached me first and shook my hand firmly. "Director," he said loud enough for everyone to hear, "we received your urgent call. Where's the unauthorized construction?" I didn't answer. I just turned and pointed at the runway, and at the HOA group standing in front of it. Karen's mouth fell open. "Unauthorized. This is our land, our project. We've invested over $2 million. The inspector raised an eyebrow. "Ma'am, you can't repaint a taxiway stripe without FAA clearance. You built an entire runway." He pulled out a notebook. "Who approved this?" Karen hesitated, then immediately pointed at the treasurer. "He handled the permits." The man exploded. "You signed everything. You said we didn't need federal approval." Their alliance collapsed right there on the tarmac. Karen spun back to me, panic replacing arrogance. "We can fix this. You can sign the paperwork retroactively. We'll pay the fines." I stepped closer. "You think this is about money? You endangered lives." If a plane had crashed, I let the silence finish the sentence. The inspector cut in. "This site is shut down immediately. All HOA operations here are suspended pending federal investigation. You don't have the authority." Karen shouted. I pulled out my badge. Sunlight flashed off the gold seal. "Director, Federal Aviation Administration." The field went silent. Karen's face turned white. "You built a runway through my farm," I said evenly. "And now you've grounded yourselves." But even as the inspectors moved in, I caught at Karen's glance at the treasurer, the way his hand slipped slowly into his briefcase, and my instinct screamed, "Stop!" Right there. My voice cut through the air like a blade. Every movement froze. The inspectors turned toward me, confused, but my eyes never left the treasurer. Slowly, deliberately, he pulled a thick folder from his briefcase, its edges bulging with paperwork. Karen jumped in instantly. Too fast. Those are just HOA financial records, she said, her voice tight. Routine stuff. We have nothing to hide. I stepped closer, boots crunching against the edge of the runway. If there's nothing to hide, I said evenly. You won't mind if I look. I snatched the folder from his hands before he could react and flipped it open. The first page made my blood turn to ice. Forged federal permits. Fake FAA seals. And at the bottom my signature. Sloppy. Imitated. I held the document up so everyone could see. You forged my name, said quietly. You didn't just build illegally. You committed federal fraud. The inspector's expressions hardened instantly. One snapped photos while another shook his head. This just escalated, he said sharply. This is no longer administrative. This is criminal. Karen's composure shattered. That isn't my signature, she stammered, spinning toward the treasurer. He handled the paperwork. He forged it. The treasurer exploded. Don't you dare dump this on me, he shouted. You told me to do it. You said your brother was a judge. You said we'd be protected. Gasps rippled through the group. Pens scratched faster. Phones came out. I said nothing. I didn't need to. I stood there and let the truth tear them apart. Karen turned back to me, shaking but defiant. You think you've won? She hissed. This HOA owns half this county. Lawyers, politicians, will bury you. I smiled faintly. I don't need to fight you in court. You already buried yourselves. Right on cue, a deep rumble rolled across the land. Black SUVs appeared on the access road, engines roaring as they closed in fast. Karen's face drained of color. Who is that? She whispered. The lead vehicle skidded to a stop. Federal agents poured out, disciplined and fast. FAA Enforcement Division. One shouted. Step away from the documents. Hands visible. Karen staggered backward. That's when I saw him. Far back near the tree line, a tall man in a gray suit. Calm, watching, and then, slipping away. My gut tightened. The agents moved in, cuffing Karen and the treasurer. She screamed, heels digging into the dirt. You can't arrest me. This is my community. My family will destroy you. The lead agent didn't blink. You're under arrest for federal fraud, unauthorized construction of an aviation facility, and endangering public safety. The treasurer tried to run. He didn't get far. Karen spun toward me as wild. You set us up, she spat. You pretended to be some nobody farmer. I met her gaze, unshaken. No, I'm a farmer. This land has been in my family for 3 generations. You underestimated me, and now you're paying for it. The remaining board members stood frozen. One whispered, we didn't know. I turned to them. When you sign your name to corruption, ignorance doesn't protect you. The FAA will speak to all of you. Karen's screams dissolved into sobs as she was shoved into the SUV. But my mind was already elsewhere. The man in the gray suit was gone. The lead agent approached. Director, what do you want done with the runway? I looked across the damage. The concrete slicing through crops. Broken fences. Ruined soil. Demolish it, I said firmly. Every inch. Restore this land. This farm is a legacy, not a playground for corruption. An inspector handed me the forged documents sealed in evidence. This goes deeper than them, he warned. Whoever backed this has serious reach. I nodded slowly. Oh, I know. And whoever's behind it just declared war. The sun dipped low as the SUVs disappeared down the road. Karen screaming behind tinted glass. My farm was safe for now, but as the wind moved through the cornstalks, I whispered to myself, you thought a runway was the worst you could do. Just wait until the real storm hits. And somewhere far away, the man in the gray suit was already planning his next move.